Imagine spending like hundreds of millions of dollars engineering a racing car to be just a fraction of a second faster per lap.
Right.
Only for the entire outcome of your weekend to be decided by a phantom dark cloud on a radar screen that never actually drops a single millimeter of rain.
Yeah, it's wild.
Welcome to today's deep dive. We are setting out to decode the high-speed strategies, the rapid-fire decision-making, and, the intense psychological rivalries of the 2026 Formula One Miami Grand Prix.
And we're doing that by synthesizing the official BBC Sport race report with the unfiltered, highly technical, real-time fan reactions from the Formula One Reddit community.
Exactly.
It is a really revealing combination. I mean, the official reporting gives us the concrete data, right? The lap times, the broader narrative.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the live fan reactions act as this real-time peer review process. They show us exactly where the broadcast narratives hold up and where the community's own telemetry analysis just kind of pokes holes in what we're seeing on screen.
And what we saw on screen was incredibly volatile. We're talking about a looming weather threat that forced the entire event to be bumped up by 3 hours.
Oh, that was crazy.
An uncharacteristic early spin from a world champion. And a 19-year-old rookie just putting on an absolute clinic.
A total masterclass.
I was trying to wrap my head around this modern era of Formula One, and I keep trying to map it onto like a high-speed game of chess. You plan 5 moves ahead, but then unpredictable variables like your hybrid battery draining prematurely or a sudden change in track temperature. It just forces you to throw the entire board away.
Well, that chess comparison gets at the strategy, but it almost assumes the board stays still.
Right.
In the 2026 regulations, I mean, the board is actively melting while you're trying to play.
Wow.
The strategic variables are so highly sensitive that a single lockup or even just a 1-degree drop in track temperature completely rewrites the optimum race pace. Everyone has a pristine simulation on Sunday morning,
Right.
but then reality hits. Exactly. That simulation just shatters the moment the red lights go out.
Which is exactly where we need to start. Because before we even get to that phantom rain cloud, we have to look at the opening seconds.
Yeah, the start.
Kimi Antonelli, 19 years old, starts on pole for Mercedes, and he has yet another sluggish launch off the line.
It's becoming a pattern.
The BBC report pointed out a staggering statistic, actually. He has now lost places on the opening lap in all 4 Grand Prix and both sprint events this season.
Yeah, it is rapidly becoming a glaring vulnerability for him.
But why is it so hard?
Getting a modern Formula One car off the line is a massive feat of mechanical synchronization. You aren't just mashing a throttle pedal like in a normal car.
Right.
The driver is managing a highly sensitive clutch paddle on the back of the steering wheel. They have to find the exact millimeter of the bite point while simultaneously managing wheel slip, torque delivery, and tire surface temperatures.
That sounds impossible to do perfectly every time.
It is, and for a rookie under the immense glare of pole position, the sensory overload is immense. He missed that optimal bite point by a fraction of a millimeter, the anti-stall systems likely bogged the engine torque, and he was instantly swallowed by the pack.
Swallowed instantly by Charles Leclerc's Ferrari on one side and Max Verstappen's Red Bull on the other.
Yep.
And that surge directly triggers the defining moment at turn 2. Verstappen dives to the inside line, carries just a bit too much speed.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, Leclerc naturally squeezes him to defend the apex, and Verstappen suffers a violent 360-degree spin right on the exit curb, with 20 cars bearing down on him.
The situational awareness Verstappen displayed there is just phenomenal.
Really, even though he spun.
Oh, absolutely. To pitch a car backward at those speeds, dip the clutch to ensure the engine doesn't stall, and rotate it perfectly to face the right direction without collecting a single piece of carbon fiber from the surrounding cars.
Right. He didn't hit anyone.
It's pure reflex. However, the strategic damage was catastrophic. He dropped to 10th place.
Just instantly out of the fight.
Exactly. That single rotation fundamentally altered the tactical landscape of the race because it completely removed the defending world champion from the immediate fight at the front.
Right, so with Verstappen suddenly out of the immediate picture, Leclerc inherits the lead ahead of Antonelli. And by laps 4 and 5, we see this intense, constant lead swapping between the two of them on the straights.
The yo-yo effect.
Exactly. The BBC piece heavily highlighted this dynamic, referring to it as yo-yo racing. It's become the defining and highly polarizing characteristic of this 2026 season. I understand it has to do with the hybrid systems, but what exactly is dictating these massive speed differentials?
Well, it comes down to the aggressive energy management mandated by the current regulations. These cars rely heavily on electrical energy harvested from kinetic braking and exhaust heat.
Okay.
They store it in a battery, and the driver deploys it for massive bursts of acceleration. But the battery capacity is strictly limited. You have to harvest in order to deploy.
So you can't just use it all the time.
No, not at all. So Leclerc might choose to dump all his electrical energy to build a 1-second gap on lap 4, but on lap 5, his battery is depleted. He is forced to switch his steering wheel dial to a harvest mode, which essentially turns his car into a parachute on the straights.
Well, Antonelli, sitting right behind him, has just been hoarding his battery.
Exactly. Antonelli suddenly has a 160 horsepower advantage.
Oh, wow.
He easily blasts past Leclerc, but a lap later, Antonelli's battery is empty, Leclerc is recharged, and the roles reverse. The cars just yo-yo back and forth based entirely on their varying states of electrical charge.
You know, I look at that dynamic,
Yeah.
and I have to question if this crosses the line into artificial entertainment.
Mm.
It feels a bit like they're just trading power-ups in a video game rather than racing. Is this actually a test of racecraft, or are we just watching a very fast, very expensive accounting exercise?
It's a fair critique, and honestly, it's heavily debated in the paddock right now. From the outside, it can definitely look artificial. But inside the cockpit, it demands an extreme level of cognitive bandwidth. You are no longer just managing tire slip angles and braking zones. You are acting as a real-time energy broker.
A broker at 200 miles an hour.
Right. The true skill lies in tactical deception. A great driver will feign an attack to force the defending car to deploy their battery early, leaving them completely defenseless on the next straight. It is a deeply psychological battle of resource management masked as a drag race.
Well, that cognitive bandwidth gets completely short-circuited on lap 6 when the track itself becomes a hazard.
Complete chaos.
We get two separate violent accidents almost simultaneously. Izagajar puts his Red Bull into the wall at the final chicane, and then Pierre Gasly's Alpine is flipped into a terrifying somersault by Liam Lawson's Racing Bull's car at the final corner.
Yeah, a sudden influx of carbon fiber on the racing line that instantly triggered a full safety car. That halted the race pace and completely reset the strategic board.
Before we analyze that strategic reset, I want to highlight an amazing piece of drama from the Formula One live thread.
Oh, the Reddit thread was going crazy.
Right. So, a user pointed out that on the live broadcast, commentator Ted Kravitz labeled Gasly the victim of a Lawson dive.
Oh.
The subreddit erupted in anger because fans looking at the live telemetry feeds already knew Lawson had suffered a massive brake-by-wire failure.
Exactly.
It wasn't a reckless rookie dive. His hydraulic system literally failed.
This is a perfect example of how the democratization of data is changing sports broadcasting. 10 years ago, the narrative of the reckless rookie outbreaking himself would have just stood unchallenged until a post-race press release.
Nobody would have known any better.
Right. But today, audiences have real-time access to brake pressure telemetry. When a brake-by-wire system fails, the pedal goes to the floor and the car does not decelerate. The driver is just a passenger at that point.
Terrifying.
The fans can see that instantly, and it removes the benefit of the doubt that broadcasters used to rely on for quick storytelling.
So with the debris scattered, the safety car comes out. We had another Reddit user, Black Ascot, who mentioned they were a relatively new fan trying to understand the intricacies of the rules.
It can be confusing.
They asked exactly how the time gaps work during this phase. I was trying to picture this tactically, and it seems to me like a full safety car is a physical reset button. It physically bunches everyone up and wipes out all the time gaps. Whereas a virtual safety car, a VSC, is more like hitting pause, where they just drive slowly to a delta time, preserving the gaps. Am I visualizing that correctly?
That gets you halfway there on the track position aspect, but you're missing the crucial hidden variable, which is tire temperature.
Oh, interesting.
You are right that the VSC preserves the physical time gaps while the full safety car destroys them by bunching the pack, but the real penalty of the full safety car is thermal.
Because they're driving so slowly.
Exactly. When you force these highly advanced aerodynamic cars to drive at highway speeds behind an Aston Martin street car, the brakes and tires lose massive amounts of temperature.
So they go cold.
Right. So when the race restarts, the cars are essentially driving on ice for the first 2 laps until they can rebuild that thermal energy.
Which heavily penalizes anyone trying to make aggressive moves immediately on the restart.
Exactly.
And that perfectly sets up the gamble we saw from Max Verstappen. He's sitting in 10th because of his early spin. Under this lap 6 safety car, Red Bull takes a massive swing.
A huge risk.
They pit him for fresh tires, dropping him to the very back of the pack. When the green flag waves, he uses that fresh rubber to ruthlessly slice through the field. By mid-race, he has actually navigated all the way to the lead.
It was amazing to watch.
But the fairy tale ends quickly. His tires completely fall off the cliff, and he plummets down to finish fifth.
Yeah, it was a spectacular drive to watch, but statistically, it was doomed from the moment he left the pit lane.
Why, though? I mean, if he had fresh tires while everyone else was on old rubber, shouldn't that have given him a permanent advantage?
Because of the aerodynamic penalty of dirty air, lap 6 is incredibly early to commit to your final set of tires. Yes, he had a mechanical grip advantage initially, but to pass 15 cars, he had to drive through their aerodynamic wakes, the turbulent, churning air coming off their rear wings.
That's the dirty air.
Exactly. That dirty air reduces downforce, which forces the car to slide, which radically spikes the surface temperature of the tires. He essentially burned up the peak life of that fresh rubber, just fighting to get back to the front.
Oh, I see.
By the time he reached the clean air at the lead, the structural integrity of his tires was ruined. The drivers behind him, who waited to pit in clean air later in the race, simply drove up to him with vastly superior, fresher rubber.
So the tactical aggression actually accelerated his tire degradation. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
And that turbulence perfectly sets up the tension at the front of the pack. Once the race settles down, Lando Norris in the McLaren looks phenomenal. He easily passes both Antonelli and Leclerc to take the lead.
He was flying.
But then track position becomes secondary to meteorology. There's a heavy threat of rain showing on the radar, predicted to hit right before half distance.
This is where the pit wall becomes just a crucible of anxiety.
I can't even imagine.
You are trying to overlay real-time tire degradation curves against a weather radar that is notoriously fickle off the Miami coast. Every lap you stay out on old tires costs you time, but pitting for dry tires right before a rainstorm ruins your race.
And the decisive moment of the Grand Prix hinges on this exact tension. Mercedes decides to act as the aggressor.
Yep, they jumped first.
On lap 24, they pit Antonelli for fresh, dry tires. McLaren, staring at this radar cloud and terrified of the rain, decides to leave Norris out on track for 3 more laps, finally pitting him on lap 27.
And the skies stay completely dry.
The strategy works flawlessly for Mercedes. Antonelli uses his fresh tires to lay down blistering lap times, so when Norris finally completes his pit stop, Antonelli cycles out comfortably ahead of him.
Norris was not happy about that.
Not at all. He was visibly furious on the radio. He said, "How did we not win this? We got undercut, no excuses."
The undercut. When executed perfectly, it is the most lethal strategic maneuver in Formula One.
I'm trying to conceptualize just how much of an advantage this undercut provides. Is it essentially like seeing a massive physical line at a coffee shop, pulling out your phone, and using an app to order ahead?
That's a fun way to look at it.
You bypass the physical queue entirely, and by the time your friend gets to the register, you're already walking out with your coffee.
It's a really helpful visualization, but with a major caveat. It only works if the app Order Your New Tires instantly makes you sprint faster the moment you step out the door.
Oh, okay.
If a driver leaves the pit lane and struggles to warm up the new tires, the driver who stayed out on track will actually gain time on them. That's called the overcut.
Got it.
But Antonelli's outlap was ferocious. He brought the tires into their optimal temperature window immediately, utilizing the peak grip to carve chunks of time out of Norris, who was just sliding around on degrading rubber out on the track.
But I have to ask about McLaren's operational paralysis here. Why were they so frozen by a weather forecast that never materialized? I mean, if they had the lead, why didn't they just ruthlessly mirror Mercedes' strategy on the very next lap to protect their track position?
Well, it exposes the psychological burden of being the race leader.
Really?
Yeah. When you are the hunted, you have everything to lose. If McLaren pits Norris for dry tires, and that radar cloud suddenly drops heavy rain 2 laps later, Norris is forced to pit a second time for wet tires. His race is entirely compromised.
So they were playing defense against the sky.
Exactly. Mercedes, running in second place, had the luxury of being the hunter. They could afford to gamble. They basically forced McLaren into a state of strategic paralysis.
Wow.
McLaren bet that the old tires would survive until the rain arrived, saving them a pit stop. The rain never came, the old tires bled lap time, and Mercedes executed the heist.
While the pit wall can win you track position, the driver still has to survive the final stint under immense physical and mental strain.
Oh, absolutely.
And the contrast in how the leaders processed that pressure in Miami was staggering. Let's look at Antonelli, 19 years old. His steering wheel telemetry shows he's battling downshift issues. His rear tires are overheating. And he has Lando Norris, in arguably the fastest car on the grid, sitting within 1 second of his gearbox for 20 consecutive laps, hunting for a mistake.
And he never blinked.
Right. Antonelli flawlessly holds him off to take the victory.
To perform with that level of clinical precision under duress is what separates good drivers from generational talents.
It's wild to think about.
He is managing a deteriorating gearbox, checking his mirrors at 200 miles per hour, and managing battery deployment to defend the straights. Yet he didn't lock a single brake or miss a single apex. He just internalized the pressure and turned it into rhythm.
Which makes the nightmare experienced by Charles Leclerc so painful to analyze.
Oh, that was tough to watch.
Ferrari brought Leclerc into the pits on lap 21, and crucially, they didn't consult him over the radio beforehand. He was highly agitated about the timing.
Understandably so.
He fights his way back up to third place, but his grip completely fades, and he loses the podium to Oscar Piastri on the penultimate lap. Then, the ultimate unforced error.
The spin.
Yeah. On the final lap of the Grand Prix, Leclerc spins the car entirely on his own. He clips the wall, suffers a right rear puncture, and limps across the line in 6th place.
Heartbreaking.
His post-race interview was incredibly bleak. He said, "That's all on me. I need to look at whether the energy was different, but that is not an excuse. It's unacceptable."
It is a brutal sequence, and it perfectly illustrates how psychological friction manifests as mechanical failure.
How so?
It begins with a strategic call he didn't endorse, right? Which instantly erodes his trust in the pit wall. That frustration bleeds into his driving style.
He gets impatient.
Exactly. He starts overdriving the corner entries to compensate for the strategic deficit. Overdriving induces microscopic sliding, which rapidly spikes the surface temperature of the tires.
He's cooking his own tires.
Yes. By lap 57, his rear tires were likely thermally degraded beyond recovery, offering zero lateral grip. The spin was basically a mechanical inevitability brought on by a psychological spiral.
And the ripples of that pressure extend to the championship standings, which are undergoing a seismic shift right now.
Oh, a massive shift.
Kimi Antonelli has just won his 3rd consecutive race. He makes history as the first driver ever to win from their first 3 pole positions. Crucially, he is now a commanding 20 points clear of his Mercedes teammate, George Russell.
Yeah, that dynamic is shifting fast.
I saw an observation on the Reddit thread that summarized the mood perfectly. Someone wrote, "Poor George at Kimi's P1 team photo. So awkward for him."
Ouch.
Russell came into this 2026 season positioned as the undisputed team leader. What happens to the internal mechanics of the Mercedes garage when the veteran is suddenly eclipsed by a teenager?
It creates an immediate existential crisis for the veteran.
Really? An existential crisis?
Yes. Formula One teams operate as ruthlessly meritocratic ecosystems. The only true benchmark a driver has is their teammate, because they share identical machinery.
Right, there are no excuses.
Russell has spent years systematically positioning himself as the heir apparent to the Mercedes empire. Now, this rookie arrives and is not only fundamentally faster over a single qualifying lap, but is demonstrating superior racecraft and composure under Sunday pressure.
Gotta hurt.
When that happens, the gravity in the garage shifts.
Yeah.
The senior engineers, the data analysts, the strategists, they naturally gravitate toward the side of the garage delivering the trophies.
They want to win.
Exactly. Russell is fighting not just for points, but to prevent himself from being permanently relegated to a supporting role within his own team.
That garage tension is fascinating. But, the drama of a race weekend rarely ends when the checkered flag drops. The post-race broadcast and fan reactions always unearth these incredible quirks.
Oh, always.
The Reddit community had a field day with the broadcasters. Ted Kravitz got completely distracted analyzing Kimi Antonelli's calf muscles during the live paddock walk.
And that was hilarious.
Fans were dissecting how former team principal Otmar Safnauer has visibly lost a significant amount of weight.
Good for him, honestly.
But the underlying current was massive frustration aimed at the FIA race stewards, who took over 2 hours to publish decisions on post-race investigations involving both Verstappen and Russell.
Yeah, the stewarding delays are a chronic issue.
It just takes the wind out of the sails.
It really does. The sport demands immense precision from the teams, yet the regulatory body often operates at an agonizingly bureaucratic pace. It leaves fans and teams in limbo regarding the final results long after the podium ceremony is over.
Speaking of the podium, there was a fantastic factual quirk spotted by the fans. Antonelli stood on the top step, but because he is under 21 years of age, U.S. federal law dictates he was prohibited from drinking the traditional celebratory champagne.
I couldn't believe that when I saw it.
The organizers had to supply him with a special, non-alcoholic alternative.
It is a deeply surreal visual. I mean, you have a driver commanding millions of dollars of engineering and outsmarting the greatest racers on Earth.
Driving at 200 miles an hour.
Exactly. Yet legally not old enough to partake in the champagne spray. It really emphasizes the disparity between his age and his execution.
As we look ahead, the circus moves to the Canadian Grand Prix at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in 3 weeks. This is a critical transition because McLaren brought substantial upgrades to Miami.
Huge upgrades.
They altered the aerodynamic profile of their floor edges and it vaulted them right into the fight, securing second and third. Despite Mercedes taking the win, they looked highly vulnerable to McLaren's raw pace. Are we genuinely looking at a two-team battle for the constructors' title, or was Miami's specific track layout flattering McLaren's upgrades?
Well, the data suggests a genuine two-team fight. Yeah, the upgrades McLaren introduced fundamentally increased their stable downforce in medium-speed corners. Crucially, the real-world performance in Miami closely correlated with their wind tunnel simulations, which gives the engineering team immense confidence.
So they know it works.
Right. Now, Canada presents a vastly different aerodynamic challenge. It demands heavy braking stability and features long straights punctuated by aggressive curb riding.
So it'll be a true test.
Definitely. But if McLaren's underlying downforce numbers are real, they possess the mechanical platform to challenge Mercedes at every remaining venue on the calendar.
This has been an incredibly revealing look into a race that tested every facet of the sport. We've witnessed a historic, methodical victory from Kimi Antonelli. We've examined the tactical devastation caused by the thermal resets of a full safety car and how the hybrid battery regulations demand an exhausting level of cognitive bandwidth from the drivers.
It's so much more than just driving.
And perhaps most importantly, we've seen how the invisible weight of psychological pressure can fundamentally compromise the mechanical grip of a veteran like Charles Leclerc.
It serves as a stark reminder that while Formula One is branded as an engineering competition, the human element, the capacity to process cascading variables under intense duress, remains the ultimate performance differentiator.
Which leads us to a final, lingering thought for you to carry forward. The BBC analysis pointed out a defining hypothetical.
Oh, this is a good one.
McLaren firmly believed their car had the underlying pace to win this race, even after their delayed, radar-induced pit stop. The data shows they lost it because Lando Norris made microscopic driving errors on his in-lap, combined with a fractionally slow tire change from his pit crew.
Just tiny, tiny margins.
With McLaren's aerodynamic upgrades seemingly equalizing the raw performance gap to Mercedes, consider this. Will the 2026 World Championship ultimately be decided not by which factory builds the fastest car, but simply by which driver and crew can survive the psychological warfare of a title fight while making the fewest unforced errors?
It's a great question.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive, and we highly encourage you to keep exploring the telemetry and the sources for yourself.